Today we're going to talk about the various disabilities and their characteristics and how they apply to the principle of universal design for learning and differentiated instruction. For every disability, a teacher may need to differentiate the content, process, and product. Also, for every disability, an IEP needs to be prepared and there needs to be a collaborative effort by all, including the student, parents, teachers, counselors, and any other professionals. The first disability I'll cover is a specific learning disability. Specific learning disability is a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using either spoken or written language. It may also manifest into an imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or do mathematics. There are no typical characteristics for an individual with a learning disability. Students with learning disabilities typically have average or above average intelligence. However, they almost always have low academic achievement in one or more areas. They also may have challenges in how they learn and process information. One example of a reading disability is dyslexia. Students with a reading disability may struggle with comprehension, reading fluency, word identification, and phonemic analysis. Another type of learning disability is a mathematics disability. These students struggle in understanding procedural problems and fact retrieval. Many students with a learning disability have difficulty with short-term and long-term memory. They may also have emotional and social challenges. They may experience depression, anxiety, loneliness, and have bad behavior. Schools could use a curriculum mapping process which helps teachers identify points in the curriculum where students with disabilities should receive instruction that is based on their unique learning needs. Advanced organizers can be beneficial as they present information before students begin to learn it. A student's high school years are an important time to work on the transition to post-secondary education. Students with learning disabilities need to learn how to advocate for themselves. As a teacher, we can promote self-advocacy skills. One instructional strategy used from birth to 3 years of age is embedded learning opportunities, and the self-questioning strategy can be used for older students. Teachers can also use the scaffolding strategy. Through this process, the teacher adds supports for the student to enhance their learning. Lastly, visual or graphic organizers can be used to accompany oral presentations. Demonstrations or role-play may also be used to enhance learning. Teachers may need to reduce the amount of work for those students with a learning disability or allow extra time on assignments or testing. Now let's talk about communication disorders. Students with a communication disorder may have a speech disorder, language disorder, receptive language disorder, or an expressive language disorder. A speech disorder refers to difficulty producing sounds or having difficulty with fluency of speech. Having a language disorder entails difficulty receiving, understanding, or formulating ideas. A receptive language disorder is characterized by one having difficulty receiving or understanding information. Lastly, an expressive disorder is characterized by difficulty forming ideas. An individual with a communication disorder may have difficulty forming social relationships. The disability can affect a student's academic performance and their emotional development. As a teacher, you need to ensure that your student understands what you are teaching and that the student can express that he has learned. One form of technology that can be used is augmentative and alternative communication system. Language strategies that may be used include focus contrast, modeling, event casts, and open casts. One instructional strategy for modeling how to use augmentative and alternative communication is a system for augmenting language. Elementary and middle school students would benefit from this use of graphic organizers which assist students to comprehend and write more effectively. Students with communication disorders may need support in building social relationships. To encourage social interaction, a teacher may encourage peer buddies within the classroom. Lastly, students with communication disorders may need accommodations for assessments, such as additional time for the use of a word processor and computer software. A teacher may need to verbally give a test or change the complex sentence structure so the child can understand. Our next disability we'll discuss is emotional behavior disorders. An emotional behavioral disorder that may include inability to learn that cannot be explained by other factors. The child cannot maintain interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers. They show inappropriate types of behavior that may also develop physical symptoms or fears related to personal or social problems. Types of emotional behavior disorders include anxiety disorder, mood disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, and schizophrenia. A student with an anxiety disorder may worry excessively or have panic attacks. Those with a mood disorder may feel sad, worthless, or depressed. They may cry often and have no interest in playing with friends and eat or sleep too much. Those with oppositional defiant disorder may be angry or irritable. Those that have a conduct disorder may be aggressive, deceitful, or destroy property. Students who have schizophrenia may have delusions or hallucinations. Students with emotional behavioral disorder may be gifted or have an intellectual disability, but most have IQs in the low to average range. They also tend to have higher dropout rates. Wraparound planning model can be used to help students with the disorder. Other effective instructional strategies include classroom-centered intervention and service learning. A teacher can create opportunities for students to engage in service learning activities. A teacher can also help with social awareness by showing empathy when role-playing. Modeling or videos can also be used to demonstrate appropriate social skills. Teachers can work on self-awareness skills in order for a student to identify his or her emotions. Relation skills can be developed by working cooperatively and with peers. One strategy for teachers is called class-wide peer tutoring, which pairs up students with a disability with one that does not. Lastly, a teacher can help a student learn problem-solving and decision-making skills. Next, we're going to talk about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD. There are 3 types of ADHD: predominantly inattentive, predominantly hyperactive/impulsive, and a combination of the two. A student with predominantly inattentive type would struggle with concentrating, paying attention to details, and listening. They may struggle with following instructions or finishing tasks and lack organization skills. The student displays a slow tempo in their approach to academic tasks, are bored, lack motivation, and are self-conscious. They may have difficulty working in distracting environments, absorbing large amounts of new information, and shifting tasks. A student with predominantly hyperactive impulsive ADHD would struggle with keeping their hands and feet still or sitting in a chair for a long period of time. They tend to talk excessively or blurt out answers prematurely. They have a difficult time waiting for their turn and tend to interrupt others. The final type is a combined type, which is the most common. An individual with a combined would have features of both. They have academic challenges and social challenges. The intellectual functioning of students with ADHD falls across the full spectrum of IQ scores. Although the majority of students have typical intelligence, they have problems achieving academically. Many also have behavioral, social, and emotional challenges. There are several techniques that a teacher can use to help these students succeed. They can teach organization skills and goal-setting skills. Other helpful skills would include note-taking techniques, effective work skills, and self-monitoring skills. The teacher may need to offer flexible time limits for finishing assignments or tests and allow more time to switch from one activity to the next. The teacher may need to simplify tasks that have multiple steps, offer breaks throughout the day, and sit students who are easily distracted in a quiet area. A teacher may need to ignore mildly inappropriate behaviors and reward them when they behave correctly. Other common techniques are airless learning and video self-modeling. Next, we're going to move on and talk about intellectual disability. Individuals with an intellectual disability have significantly sub-average general intellectual functioning along with deficits in adaptive behavior. They don't have the capability to problem solve, pay attention, think abstractly, remember important information and skills. They have impairments with both short-term and long-term memory. They lack conceptual, social, and practical skills to function in everyday life. They may lack the ability to read, write, or understand money concepts. They lack social skills. They may have low self-esteem, lack responsibility, and be gullible. It is very important for teachers to help their students master skills so they can function in the community. Instructional strategies which could be used include pre-linguistic milieu teaching. Another strategy is the self-determined learning model of instruction. This strategy is a self-determined learning model of instruction. This strategy builds on the principles of self-determination and encourages one to achieve goals. Lastly, community-based instruction can be used. This technique helps a student transition to the community. Technology can be used to help a student with an intellectual disability learn. Items such as e-readers and digitally talking books may be used. Accommodations that can be made include dictating responses to a scribe, having extended time to complete an assessment, and having tests read to them. The next disability I'm going to discuss is autism. Autism is a disability that affects verbal and nonverbal communication along with social interaction. A student with autism has impairments in social, emotional reciprocity, nonverbal communication, and maintaining relationships. They also may have repetitive speech, excessive reliance on routines, fixated interests that are atypical in terms of intensity or focus, and excessive or limited reaction to sensory input, and excessive touching or smelling of objects. Students with autism often interrupt when others are talking, focusing attention on one topic, reverse pronouns, and repeat people's language. They also may have self-injurious behaviors and show aggressive behaviors. Autism occurs in children with all levels of intelligence, ranging from students who are gifted to those having intellectual disabilities. Symptoms of autism are more severe in individuals with a lower IQ. Some strategies a teacher can use for individuals with autism are memory strategies, keyword strategies, letter strategies, and peg word strategy. In an effort to help with social interaction, a teacher can use person-centered planning models that involve peers. They can also identify interests and abilities of students with autism and connect those students with others with the same interests. Teachers of very young children can use social stories, which helps them learn appropriate interaction in social settings. During the elementary and middle school years, a teacher can implement school-wide positive behavior support. Discrete trial teaching is one strategy used to teach students with autism new forms of behavior. Students with autism will most likely require accommodations when testing. One accommodation is to use an individual familiar to the student when giving tests. Now we're going to move on to traumatic brain injury. Individuals who have a traumatic brain injury may have an impairment with cognition, language, memory, attention, reasoning, judgment, problem solving, sensory, perceptual and motor abilities, psychosocial behavior, physical functions, information processing, and speech. Characteristics vary depending whether the injury was mild or severe and the age of the child when the injury occurred. Physical problems include lack of coordination, physical weakness, and fatigue. Individuals with a brain injury generally have an IQ in the low to average range. They tend to have meltdowns and show frustration. They also may have difficulty forming close friendships and solving social problems. The teacher may need to allow time for the child to leave the classroom if they're being fatigued. The teacher can also vary the instructional pace and allow adequate processing time. Technology may be used to help with memory impairment. Supplementary aids such as Daily Planner may help them with short-term memory problems or writing tests down that need to be completed. Other strategies include cooperative learning groups, which refers to creating situations where students are required to work together to succeed. In addition, students with a traumatic brain injury would benefit by learning problem-solving and decision-making skills. Tests may need to be modified to include multiple choice or true-false questions. Next, disability is a hearing impairment. Hearing loss can range from mild loss to being deaf. Students with a hearing loss have the same IQ range as students who are not deaf. Academic problems depend upon their individual characteristics. However, they may experience difficulties in speaking, reading, and writing. Students who are deaf will likely have the language delays and therefore have communication difficulties. This in turn may create psychosocial development difficulties. It may be difficult for a student with a hearing impairment to make friends and develop socially. To communicate, students may use oral communication, a manual approach, or total simultaneous communication. Devices that can be used include sound field amplification systems or loop systems. Closed caption technology can be used in a classroom, which translates dialogue from a spoken language to a printed form. Students will need to be provided speech-language pathologists to help with speech. A translator may need to be provided who can translate what the teacher says into sign language. Technology such as a sound field system may be used. A teacher with a hearing-impaired student should reduce background noise by closing windows or doors and shutting off electronic devices. For those students that can lip read, a teacher should stand within 3 feet of the student. They should always face the class and never walk and talk. They should stop talking when writing on the chalkboard. A student with a hearing impairment should have preferential seating in close proximity to the teacher and away from distractions. A teacher may need to repeat or rephrase. Lastly, breaks may be needed for the students with a hearing impairment. Another disability covered idea is visual impairments. Students with visual impairments may be totally blind, functionally blind, or have low vision. Students with visual impairments may be gifted students or have a variety of disabilities. The one common characteristic is they all have a limited ability to learn incidentally from the environment. However, children who are blind may be passive and therefore will lack in social interactions. Lastly, individuals who have a poor sense of their ability to affect change in their lives are at risk for poor self-esteem, poor academic achievement, and reduced language and social skills. Many students with low vision can read print, while others are required to use other methods such as Braille. Students who are blind often lead a hands-on approach that uses all their senses. In early childhood, visually impaired students need to learn from their parents hands-on, functional skills such as changing clothes or making a snack. During the elementary years, they need to learn mobility, Braille, and social skills. During the secondary years, they need to focus on transition from school to adulthood. Basically, they need to learn how to live on their own and be independent. Teachers need to include in the core curriculum communication skills, social interaction skills, orientation, and mobility skills. Teachers will need to learn to make adaptations. They will need to convert all lesson material to Braille. For those with low vision, a teacher may need to provide optical devices such as magnifying lenses, telescopes, or large print books. Technology will need to be provided such as electronic search engines and optical character readers to scan documents and convert them to Braille or audio. When performing math, instead of counting pictures of rabbits, a student would count physical items such as buttons. Teachers of visually impaired students need to have expectations and help with self-motivation.